Hello, good people of YouTube, Mountbatten here, and today we're going to be talking about the upcoming American battleship line split. Many of you guys have asked me to share my opinion on these ships with you guys, and I talked about them a couple of times, but I haven't talked about them recently with some of the changes that they've undergone. So, for those of you that don't know, the American battleship line is getting split at Tier 8. From the Colorado, you're going to be able to choose to research the North Carolina, which is the current only option in the game, or after the update, you're going to be able to choose the Kansas, which is the new Tier 8 American battleship. And essentially, the new line is, well, grown-up Colorados. Or really what it is if the U.S. Navy chose to go with the Super Dreadnought option rather than the fast battleship option. And the Tier 10, the Vermont, is actually a Tillman design. It's a variant of a Tillman design. So we are in a way getting a Tillman class battleship in the game. If you don't know what a Tillman is, it's basically a design drawn up under the request of a senator called Tillman to basically see the largest and most powerful ship the U.S. Navy could possibly construct in the early 1900s, and the Vermont's a variant of that, so that's kind of cool to see that get added into the game. But these ships are, and I'll throw some pictures of them up on screen, they're humongous, they're wide, they're thick, and above all else, they are painfully slow. Painfully slow. If you think the Colorado is slow at Tier 7. Good God, these things are horrendously slow at Tier 9 and 10. The Kansas, I believe, isn't too bad with a top speed of 23 knots at Tier 8. Yes, you heard that right, 23 knots at Tier 8. But it gets worse. The Minnesota, the Tier 9, has a top speed of, you guessed it, 23 knots at Tier 9. The Vermont, the Tier 10, guess what she has? A 23 knot top speed at Tier 10. At Tier 10, this thing can only go 23 knots. And this is by far my biggest problem with these new battleships. I mean, I like the design of them. I like the way they look. They're just so massive. I mean, it truly looks like what you would imagine a battleship should be, just this humongous hulking vehicle just bristling with guns. And the Kansas and the Minnesota both have 12 16-inch guns. The Kansas is basically a Tier 8 Montana. Now the Vermont takes it up a step further and has 12 457mm guns. That's right, this thing has 12 18-inch guns. Yeah, that's a lot of firepower. And when the Vermont does come out, she will take over the title of heaviest broadside from Montana. So that's going to happen. And in other ways, these ships, if they keep them in this current configuration, they're kind of doomed to fail, in my opinion. The Kansas, I've heard that one's not so terrible simply because it's a Montana at Tier 8. The Minnesota and the Vermont, on the other hand, a 23 knot top speed on top of a ship that is truly massive. If you ever run across one of these things in game, it's hilarious how big these things are. And I get why they're slow. They are truly massive ships. But, I mean, it's not that great being a huge ship in a Tier 10 game or a Tier 9 game. I mean, geez, Grosser Kurfürst has a hard enough time with being set on fire from literally everything 24/7 during a Tier 10 match. Can you imagine taking out a Minnesota or a Vermont that's not as big as a GK, but certainly has a comparable surface area? And the GK can at least go 32 knots. It's a fast battleship. The Vermont can only go 23. Now, they did recently buff the armor plating from 32mm to 38, now where most of the ship is coated in 38mm rather than 32mm. So that's going to cut down on the pin damage from HE spam from the likes of ships like Smolensk, Worcester, Harugamo, Kitakazi, Colbert. It's going to cut back on that. But, I mean, at the end of the day, fires really don't care about armor plating or, you know, your damage control or anything like that, because sure, you might have just put out 2 or 3 fires, but it's okay. Between the Smolensk and the Colbert and the Thunderer, you'll have your 3 fires back on you pretty quickly, and the ship cannot run away. There's literally nothing at tier 10 that can't catch it. Nothing. And if you think Yami's slow at 27 knots, and Kremlin's slow at 28 knots, and Ohio's slow at 28 knots, imagine this thing at 23 knots. Imagine being in a Colorado in a tier 10 game. Now, unlike the Colorado, the Vermont does have the range to hang in and party. Currently, right now, I believe she has a 24.5 kilometer base range, and she does have a spotter. So you do have the range to hang in the back, but you're going to need just absolute perfect map awareness, because the second that flank that you're trying to support starts to fall, you are going to have to run, because most cruisers at this tier will have at least a 15 knot speed advantage on you, and most battleships will have a 7 or 8 knot speed advantage on you. So, I mean, they're interesting, don't get me wrong. Like I said in my first video about them, they're interesting. I'm very curious to see how the development cycle has gone. And recently they have buffed the Sigma and the dispersion of, I believe, the Minnesota and the Vermont. And they actually cranked down, I believe it was the dispersion on the Kansas, to now where they are quite accurate at their very long range. And, I mean, that's good for the Vermont, but I mean, imagine a battleship with 18-inch guns. Now, they're not 460-millimeter guns, so they can't overmatch 32 millimeters of armor. They can't do that. So you won't have ships that will be able to, just laugh at your bow and just dunk on you from 24 kilometers, but I mean, you are going to get slapped pretty hard either way with 12 18-inch shells raining down on you from on high, especially with the American shell arcs. If you guys don't know, the American battleships and, well, the cruisers and the DDs have great shell arcs for plunging fire, which means at long range the shells are going to be traveling basically straight down through the deck armor and into, well, your citadel at long range. And I do believe they also have the shell velocity of the American battleship line. It's 732 meters a second on the Vermont, which means, yeah, these shells are going to be ungodly slow at maximum range, but if you manage to hit a cruiser, you're going to nuke the absolute crap out of it, because your shells aren't traveling fast enough to overpin it. So it has that going for it, but it's also another situation of, is this really good for the game? You're going to add in a class of battleships that excel at now sniping from the back line and literally have no other purpose in the game, because it's not like you're going to be able to tank much with your ship. I mean, unless they do some type of crazy overhaul to the armor scheme of these ships. Sure, they have a lot of health. Sure, they now have 38 millimeters of armor, but again, fires don't care about armor. Fires don't care about your hit points. You're going to get melted down in a pretty quick time anyway. And plus, if anything catches this ship, it's dead. What can it do? A destroyer sticks around and gets you. You can't evade it. It's going to be too slow to do anything besides maybe a round or two of torpedo beats before, well, you're just so far out of position now you're useless, and now you're at the destroyer's will. Or if you get caught by a small lens, what are you going to do? You can't run. You're not going to be able to get out of range in time. That's the only countermeasure that battleships have to HE spam from ships like Smolensk that can just smoke up and spam you. Is either you have to push it to where you can get close in range if you're in something like GK, where you'll have the advantage and deal with it there, or you have to go undetected and run out of its main battery firing range, which in this thing, which can only go 23 knots, it's going to take a year to get out of a Smolensk's firing range or into cover or anything. And plus, its detection range is absolutely massive. Oh god, let's see, what is it right now, base? It's do they even say? I have the dev blog up right now. Yeah, it's surface detectability 18 kilometers. 18 kilometers. 18 kilometers base surface detectability, and to my knowledge, that hasn't been nerfed yet. So yeah, it has horrible detection. It has a humongous surface area. It's got pretty good guns. I'm not gonna lie about that, But they also have, I was saving this for last, a 40-second reload. A 40-second reload on its main battery guns. Now, I get it. It's got 12 18-inch guns. It's going to have a longer than average reload. But a 40-second reload. I mean, all in all, if one or two things were changed about these ships, they have the potential to be some very, 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 very good ships. Right now, it seems to be that they're focusing on making these ships some backline snipers with some insanely accurate guns and a very long reload time. And they literally can't do anything else at this point. Even if they don't want to, like, shift around the concept of these battleships, I do believe that they need to give them some more speed, at least a 25 knot top speed. Even with a 25 knot top speed, everything's going to be able to catch up to you. Doesn't matter what's chasing you. It's still going to have well over at least a 10 knot speed advantage over you. Even Harugamo could catch up to one of these things. And that's Harugamo. It's looking like, unless they do some major changes to these ships, they are going to be kind of DOA. They'll be fun for a gimmicky round or two, just, dunking on fools at 24 or 26 kilometers with a spotter plane. It'll be fun for that a couple of times. But I have a feeling it's going to be a very frustrating class to play. It sounds like it's going to have to depend upon so much teamwork, and that's just not a very common thing at Tier 10 nowadays. So, if they do some more major changes to them, I'll be a bit more interested in the line. I still am interested in them to see how they're going to come out, but I'm not waiting, all excited and stuff, waiting for these ships to come out, because, first off, they're a sniper, which I hate that playstyle in the first place. And second off, it sounds like it's just going to be a horrible experience, especially at high tier. So that's what I think about these ships, And again, all this could change. This is still work in progress. Wargaming could come out tomorrow and announce some more major buffs to these ships, which, hey, that would be great for these ships. But I'm not waiting with bated breath for these ships. I'm not overly excited for them. And that is, as of me recording this on the 8th, my current thoughts about these American battleships. Again, this could all change with one dev blog or something, but that's the thing about these ships. Let me know in the comments down below. What do you guys think about these American battleships? You excited for them, not excited for them, or you just kind of like I am right now? Just want to see what state they come out in. Let me know in the comments down below. If you enjoyed the video, please drop a like and subscribe to the channel. We are on our way to 20,000 subs. We're getting very close to that goal thanks to you guys, and I cannot thank you guys enough for that. Hope you guys are having a wonderful Wednesday, and hope to catch you guys in the next one.